Last year, we conducted a study on the use of discharge cone covers to increase overall poultry house tightness. Now, what I love about this study is it did a really good job of illustrating excessive leakage concentrated in a small area, or another way to look at it, when you have a lot of tunnel fans leaking, they not only have an effect on fuel usage, but they also have an effect on litter quality and potentially bird health. Because if you really start looking during cold weather, one of the first places birds tend to get sick are near the end walls, because that's where we tend to have the worst litter. And whenever you see wet litter, I want you to think about cold air, because cold air doesn't remove litter moisture. Now this is like a 13-house farm, and we retrofitted 2 of them and compared them to the houses next to them. One house was equipped with discharge cone caps, and one house was equipped with discharge cone socks. Here are the caps. Pretty simple. You put it over the end of the fan. There's a little drawstring here. You pull that tight. Fan is covered. And the nice thing about these types of things, to be honest, if the fan happens to come on, it will typically blow the cap off of that. And that's why a lot of times you tie this to the side of the fan or something so the caps don't go rolling across the countryside. Here are the socks. Basically, it's a tube or a sock where it's open on both ends. But this is really long, so when the fan's off, it just sort of collapses. When the fan comes on, it just blows air out the end of it. Here you go. The fans are off. Now the minimum ventilation fans come on. You can see those socks. What they do, they can sort of get sucked into the house. And you start to see them as time goes along. They actually start sealing tighter and tighter. You see up along this edge, you can see them sealing pretty tight. So the longer the fans run, it pulls that whole sock up into it. And it really does a beautiful job of sealing up those fans. We had one with a cap over here. Just compare them side by side. Again, the socks will prevent hot air from leaving the house, and you'll see them actually billow out a little bit. And that gives you a feel for, hey, how much air is trying to leave, because they'll sort of pop out when the fans are off, but they're still trapping that hot air there, and when the fans come on, they'll suck it right back into the house. Let's look at some thermal images outside the house. Here's the butterfly shutters with and without caps. Here's without caps, with. Without, with. Now, you can see, we still have some leakage, end wall door leakage right there. You can see that coming out. There's the concrete foundation, poor R value. But it makes a big difference on these fans is we just don't have that really hot shutter there. And that means you don't have all that hot air coming out that fan right there. A little up close there. These houses had cones on them, but they had an interior shutter. And these are the ones that we put some of the socks on. Without, with. And you sort of compare it versus this one over here on the side that actually had a butterfly shutter. But again, you can sort of see the difference there. With and without the socks. I think the more interesting issues are what we saw inside. Here's the butterfly fans, the butterfly shutters without and with caps. Here it is without caps, and here's the house next to it with caps. Without, with. And you can see the immediate difference you can actually see the fan blades. You can see that the floor is warmer next to the fans. You can see the chicks are cooler here. And they're warmer there in that end of the house. Here's again the same house, a little bit of a distance, looking more from behind. So we're about 40 feet away. You can see all the cold air. You can see the lacks of chicks. You can see some piling of some chicks here, even with this heater running. That's without the caps, with the caps. Without, with. Big difference. Look at the difference in the floor temperature. Here, this brooder is running full out, trying to keep this end of the house warm because the sensor is right about 20 feet from that end wall. We purposely put it over there so we can, make sure that the end stays warm. This one, not running as hard. Birds are spread out. The heater's just running a little bit. Much better environment. This is the interior, the fans with interior shutters with and without the socks. Again, cool sidewall. See the cool chicks, the yellow chicks, nice and warm. Blue chicks, nice and cold. Look at the difference. That's with the socks. Without, with. The thing you see and that we saw is that there are more birds down there. The warmer we got it, the more birds that were down there, and that's where our control pans are. Again, a more distant view without the socks. These are interior, and they were plastic shutters. Blue spots here with the socks. This is the second heater back that was running. But the heater next to these really wasn't running hard. Look how uniform the birds were. Very little blue over there. Here's a heater running hard. A lot of blue there. A lot of difference in bird density. Did some temperature graphs. We did the 6 locations there on that outside drinker line. 1 minute recording interval. Here's the butterfly shutters, fans without the caps on them. The red line is about 30 feet from the fans, and then we had 0.3, 4, 5, 6. Some of the sensors failed. But look at that versus that. A heater went out right over here. That's when a heater went out. But you can see the caps were installed over here. But look how uniform that temperature is versus that one. Now, a side note, this one also had some high volume circulation fans, which I believe helped it too. So, we're going to talk about that next week, the difference between high volume and low volume fans and the importance of circulation fans. But radical difference there. Here's the fans with the interior shutters without socks. With. Without. With. Huge difference in that environment. Not perfect, but that's a heck of a lot better than that is right there. Heater runtime. This is the tunnel fan heat zone runtime. These are the fans with no caps and no socks. So we're looking over this 9-day period. If we just sort of group them together, let's call that around 16 hours a day runtime. 16 out of 24 hours, those are running. Here are the 2 houses with caps and socks. You really start seeing the difference here. In general, a quick and dirty, we cut the heat zone runtime in half. So instead of running, some of that heat zone is running almost all the time. You look at the one, again, the no caps versus the caps, we're looking at 22 hours versus 8 hours. Huge difference in heater runtime. And trust me, the grower noticed that. Litter conditions. Right there near the tunnel fans. Okay, here's the litter conditions near the tunnel fans with the butterfly shutters, with and without caps, without, with. Without, with. Sidewall, without, with. Without, with. Socks, without, with. Then without, with. This is sort of hard to show with pictures a lot of times. So what we did is we actually measured some litter moisture in those locations. Here's caps versus no caps. Quick and dirty. We're looking at those little spots that we measured there. litter moisture of about 10, average litter moisture, which was around 10, 12%, which is technically dry, versus around 18%, which is right up there, about ready to kick over. So big difference in litter moisture, which would mean there'd be a big difference in ammonia generation, but we didn't happen to measure that.